Hey, YouTube family, welcome to another edition of the Kevin Strong Show. And the title of this video is Hard Times, because I think that's what a lot of Americans are dealing with, to include small businesses. So we're going to talk about some general information that has recently come out in the news that kind of indicates that whether you're rich, poor, have a business, you're dealing with hard times. So one article that actually came out that was really, really disturbing, it said that nearly 20 million people are having a difficult time paying for their utility bills. That's an alarming statistic. So if you're struggling with your light and your gas bill, things of that nature, those are basically essential bills that you really need to address right away. Even if you can't pay your mortgage, depending upon what state you're in, you can go a long time and still reside in your house if you haven't paid your mortgage. But how long can you go if you can't pay your utility bill? I think that's a very, very telling stat that kind of indicates how bad things are, broadly speaking, in the economy. Another thing is that there's millions of people still behind on their rent. I've talked about this ad nauseum in previous videos. Obviously, this is a very serious problem. Back when the health crisis first came out in March of 2020, the government intervened and put a lot of moratoriums in place in terms of lenders couldn't foreclose, landlords couldn't evict those tenants who were behind on their who fell behind on the rent. And that went on for a long period of time, almost approximately 2 years. I have been on record as saying, coining the phrase, capitalism always fills a void. And what do I mean by that? If there's a void, capitalism will find it. Capitalism always doesn't necessarily take the path of least resistance, but if there's a gap that needs to be filled, capitalism will find it. So there's a lot of people out there that were chanting cancel rent, no job, no rent, things of that nature. Part of the system, in my humble opinion, blatantly ignored the plight that the landlord was struggling with in terms of them being able to handle the mortgage on their end because they weren't getting income from their tenant. Some of these folks, their credit were damaged. They lost some property, and potentially there's been some stories about people lost their primary residence because a lot of people, mom and pop landlords that is, were relying on that rental income to subsidize or maintain their standard of living. So the whole thing was just purely fumbled, for lack of better words. New construction pitfalls is the next one I wanted to talk about. So just imagine there's a multi-phase new construction development that you and your significant other are excited about. You know, you pull up, it's 3,000 square feet. You're excited about picking out the bells and whistles. The builders enticing you with all these amenities and upgrades because they really want you to purchase this new construction. So you buy it for $500,000, let's say in the latter part of 2020 or the first part of 2021. I'm just coming up with that amount, 500,000 new construction. But most of us know, if you haven't had your head in the sand, that real estate has taken an abrupt change from going up to stalling to actually starting to go down in aggregate. So how do you think some of those people feel that if you bought in the first phase of a construction at $500,000 and now in the second phase, the housing market has taken a turn for the worse, interest rates are going up, inflation hasn't really pared itself back enough to really give anybody any breathing room. So people are standing on the sidelines worried about their jobs, they're worrying about the recession, and they're definitely worried about high interest rates and how that would affect a payment, especially on a $500,000 home. So what does the builder have to do in return? The builder's got to say, hey, maybe I need to lower this price to $450, $430. And as time goes on, in my humble opinion, as the market, the housing market continues to decline, by the time you get in that third phase, that $500,000 home could be $380. Right? That's over a 20% haircut. So that most recent sale in phase 3 is the baseline for the house that you bought in phase 1 when you and your significant other paid $500,000 for that piece of property. So please be careful. New construction It's going to flood the market with new inventory, in my humble opinion. Just for full disclosure purposes, I am a licensed real estate broker in the state of Washington. So I'm giving you my editorial opinion from a realtor's and insider's perspective, so to speak. But I'm making more of an aggregate editorial remark as it applies to new construction. I think you will see a massive amount of new construction across the country flood the market in the fourth quarter of this year. And that's why I gave you guys the analogy about where you purchased your new construction in phase one can be a totally different value in phase three. Now, there's some people out there saying, look at year over year increases. That is a red herring argument. I've talked about this ad nauseum. It's the month-to-month data that gives you the most recent information as to where housing is going, whether it's trending up, trending down, or remaining stagnant. And most month over month housing data is trending down. Of course, there's exceptions. I have a lot of friends in various real estate chat rooms. I just was in one a couple minutes ago. I'm not going to name it. And there's some very smart people, and they're talking about not in my housing market, not in my housing market. Slow your roll, homie. Wake up. Now, back during the great financial crisis in 2008, there were some markets that didn't get hit as hard as other markets, and some actually went up. There's always exceptions, okay? But to sit there and say, not in my market, as a counter argument to an aggregate discussion about where housing is going, is kind of like a contrarian position to take. So what I mean by that is that overall, most of us know that housing is declining, right? People don't feel confident about the economy. They're worried about their jobs. Their personal savings rate is, I think, it's the worst it's been in 10 years. And the consumer sentiment in terms of how confident the average consumer feels about the overall economy is the worst it's been, I think, since 1980. Inflation is at like a 40-plus year high. Credit card debt is at an overall high. So don't act stupid. Jokingly, don't act stupid when someone says, well, not in my housing market. Really, we're talking about an aggregate. Give it time. Chances are it probably will touch your housing market. And if it doesn't, just consider yourself lucky, because in my humble opinion, this has the potential to be worse than 2008. Last but not least, 40% of small businesses are struggling to pay their rent. A lot of you guys remember a couple of years ago when the PPP programs came out and all that money was allocated to keep small businesses afloat. The majority of those businesses did not survive. Small businesses, for all practical purposes, have been destroyed since the healthcare crisis. So a lot of times people like myself come out here and give you some information, says, well, what can you do? I'm going to give you a really, really good business idea that doesn't take a lot of money to start up. Probably within 12 to 18 months, if you do a lot of aggressive marketing, you could come close to making 6 figures a year. It's not my cup of tea. I've done it a long time ago. I just don't like to do it. Some of the skill set that is required for this particular thing I'm going to tell you guys about. You have to be good at accounting, managing money, talking to people, negotiating. So what am I talking about? Debt management. Look at your prospective state, find out what the requirements are. Some states will require you to get a bond and be insured. But basically what you're going to do is that so many people are struggling with debt. You're going to have the average consumer, let's say with 4 or 5 credit cards, maybe the majority of them are delinquent, and you're going to put all those cards together, reach out to each individual creditor, and then work out some kind of payment plan based on your client's current income situation. Hopefully, you'll be able to successfully negotiate new payment terms, help their credit a little bit, and reduce the interest rate. Okay, there's software out there. I'm not going to give any recommendations. You can email me if you want to know some more about that. Once again, I'm not in that space anymore, but I get calls every day on my main website talking about, do you do debt management anymore? It's just, for me, it's just not the chase. It's just not worth the chase anymore. I'm not pretentious. I'm not saying I'm all that in a bag of chips and some French dip. I'm just saying it's just not worth it for me. And that's not really my skill set. I'm very, very good at negotiating and debating. For those of you who've seen me on Facebook, I love a good debate, but I just don't have the skill set. I shouldn't say the skill set. I'm not passionate about it. But if you're good in accounts receivables, accounts payable, organizing things, QuickBooks, look into starting a debt management company where you consolidate people's unsecured debt, streamline it into some type of software, reach out to those creditors, state your case as to why your client should get new terms and conditions, and start to make a monthly payment. You won't, but your client will make a monthly payment to those creditors. Now, one caveat to this great business idea is that some laws do not allow you to charge any money up front. So you're going to go ahead and have to negotiate in good faith, get these new terms and conditions set up and in writing. And then as your client starts to make these monthly payments towards their creditor, you get a portion of your fee from that overall payment. And it's called debt management. I think in the state of Washington, the most you can charge, I believe, is 15% overall of the overall debt or something like that. So like I said, it's been a while. So that's just a little nugget if you're looking for something like, hey, I've got the infrastructure, I've got a computer, I've got online capabilities. I'd like to start a side hustle. What's really out there that I can make really good money, do it remotely, and help a lot of people? Look into debt management. So I hope you found this video in a good place. You know my motto, keep your credit score up and your debt down. If you're enjoying this type of content, please smash that like button and comment. Don't forget to smash the like button if you are enjoying this content. Comment and share because I care. This was the Kevin Strong Show, and I'll see you guys in the next video.